We're live. There we go.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining. We've never done this before, so it'll be kind of an experiment. Let us know how everything sounds if you can see us and hear us well. And I'm back in Wisconsin from Louisiana for a bit, so we were finally in the same place. So we figured we would try and do a live. So let us know how everything is, audio, visual in the chat, if you could.
Whoever is going to be the first chat is going to be a very important, legendary person to us. First ever chat. Still waiting for it. But we wanted to just kind of talk about some of the questions that we get often. Hey, we got a chat.
We got to give a shout out to the first chat. Nick, thanks so much. He said, hey guys, did you ever do a fan meetup and go birding with your subscribers? We always have so much. He said y'all, so he must be Southern or from the South. I'm assuming. Always have so much luck, and I would love to go birding with an expert. Sounds great. Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. You know what's funny is we actually get these requests kind of a lot, and what usually happens is the scheduling is difficult, but it'll be kind of a back and forth phone tag, and then eventually it'll kind of fizzle out. Like there were a couple people that actually had some really interesting places they wanted to go, and I was like, yeah, that would be cool, but maybe in a couple months, and then you kind of lose track.
Well, I mean, Ryan actually, I was gone, so I wasn't involved, but Ryan led a couple bird walks at the Conservancy for Healing and Heritage in Franklin, and those were open to the public. I think there was there a fee for those?
Yeah, there was a slight fee, but it wasn't terrible. It was like $15 or something. And if you're like, here, say something. That's you.
Well, I'm not sure how well this is picking everything up. So, but yeah, that'd be awesome. From Illinois. Oh yeah, so he's not too far away.
Why is it saying y'all then?
Is it Southern Illinois? Because I know Southern
Illinois is a different animal.
Southern Illinois people do say y'all.
Is that Bryce? What's up, Bryce? Thanks for tuning in. Bryce, how's your tennis game going? One of my college students just tuned in and chatted, and I texted him today asking how his tennis game is going, and he didn't respond. So now he's on the hot seat.
Just south of Chicago. Okay. We've only done the one episode from Illinois so far, and it was on the monk parakeets that are over there. Hey, Kobe, how's it going? Bryce with the muscles there.
He's taking steroids now.
We did the episode about the monk parakeets in Illinois, and that was a really cool one to film. And we actually have monk parakeets in New Orleans too. It seems like they like those bigger cities where they're able to hang out there. Mike sounds fine if you leave it in the middle. Oh, thanks, Craig. We appreciate that.
Bryce is texting me now for anybody that wanted to know. So this worked out well to finally get some information out of him. Derek, what's it like in Louisiana anyway? Like, what's the birding scene like there?
So I'm in the very south of Louisiana. My college that I'm a master's student at Nicholls State University, and I'm actually studying gar and other fish. But that's like considered more Caribbean culture. So if you think about Louisiana is shaped like the boot, and when it starts branching off into the actual boot shape, that's like above that is considered like Southern US culture. And then below that is like Caribbean culture.
Which is like what?
It's very relaxed. Like things are pretty chill. It's very flat. And so it's just kind of like you can just see forever, and the terrain is like all the same in the area where I am. So anytime I come back up north, it's like every little hill I appreciate. I'm like, oh my gosh, a hill. Like even when you see the levees that are man-made, you're like, oh, it's a levee.
Yeah,
like,
he literally, so cool. Whenever we're driving anywhere, when he's back up here, he's like, oh, a hill. I haven't seen one of those in months.
Yeah, you would definitely appreciate that. The birding scene, there's tons of migration is crazy. But there's a lot of good birders down there, but everybody's kind of spaced out because Louisiana is a pretty big state, and the terrain is fairly different depending on where you go.
And apparently a lot of the stuff that's rare for us in Wisconsin is not rare to him. So I was like, we can go get snow egrets and cattle egrets up here. And he was like, trash birds.
Yeah, we have a lot of egrets, a lot of wading birds. What's interesting is the wood storks are actually coming through now. So that's normally the summer is kind of, there's like not a lot going on in the summer. We were just talking about this, how it's tough because the trees are leafed out, so it's harder to see stuff. Things are breeding, so you don't get as many vagrants, and it's really hot and there's tons of bugs. And so it's interesting to have birds like wood storks that kind of like move in the middle and show up then? Because I feel like around here we don't really have things that are migrating during the middle of the summer.
Yeah, it looks like we got some more comments too. What are people saying?
Somebody said, "Do you both use eBird?" And we do.
To
Pretty
varying
frequently.
degrees depending on the
Yeah.
time of year.
I try to eBird as much stuff as I can. But it's tough sometimes, especially if like you're doing a ton of checklists.
Yeah, I sometimes lose track of what I've seen I intend to do in eBird checklist and then just don't. What's honestly probably the easiest is if you just do the app version as you're out birding, and then every time you see something, you just take a second and mark it off.
Yeah,
but
there's the mobile app, and if you can hit start checklist before you start, and it'll actually track how many miles you went, and it'll show you the little like map of where you were. So it's actually a good thing for, you know, athletically being like, oh, I walked 8 miles or however you do it. And then you can type in the birds as you go, and then you can put in pictures later when you're done on the computer.
Yeah, and Kobe, does that say in PA, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, would you ever do a birding
I would
trip
love
in
to
PA?
do a birding
I think
trip
that'd
in
be fun.
Pennsylvania.
Hopefully we'll be able to do something with Matt Young, the winter finch expert, and he lives out in the Northeast
He's
area.
in New York area, right?
New York area.
New York, yeah, the more wild part of New York. I don't even know what's interesting in Pennsylvania, but I bet there's a lot of cool stuff that comes down from Canada in there.
Definitely.
Probably kind of similar to Wisconsin, but it would be nice to get a different state.
Yeah, I was saying it's like, at least for me, I'd love to do at least one episode in every state, because we have the different logos that pop up, like, oh, this is in Illinois or in Louisiana. Matt Young is the crossbell expert. He's definitely our like winter finch guy, and he just loves winter finches.
Yeah, he's so fun to talk about finches with.
And I'll send him pictures of things too, and just be like, Matt, what do you think about
I think
this?
sometimes you send him pictures that, like, because people send us pictures, and then we'll be like, Matt, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, we
for
love
some
getting
of the call types
confirmation
and
from
stuff
Matt
too.
for sure. And they launched the Finch Research Network. That has a lot of great resources on there too. And then we had another question. Do you think the cinnamon teal still hang around Lake Farm Park in Madison?
I don't think so. I think that it's gone, but I could be wrong, because I just check my needs list usually. I haven't been checking the rare bird alert, so it's possible that's still there. I haven't heard, because
I definitely don't have that in Wisconsin for the year, and I don't think I saw it on my list. And I think in Wisconsin there's enough birders around and out that if it was there, they would still know. But you could definitely check eBird and see. I'm gonna take a look real quick and see.
We got another question too. What's your ABA life list at? Do you even know yours off the top of your head?
I could look it up real quick.
Yeah, you can look it up real quick. I would need to look up mine too. I kind of lose track of that as well, because I kind of keep closer tabs on my Wisconsin list. At least right now I do.
Trying to find the rare bird alert. There we go.
Yeah, see if it's on there. Summer is always a weird time to bird, because honestly, I hate going out when the trees are leafed out and it's so buggy. I'm in the process right now of making a blog post about why summer is the worst time to go birding.
I don't see it on my rare bird alert for Wisconsin, so I don't think it's been seen lately.
White-tailed kites hanging around though in Burnett County. That's pretty cool. What are some things in Louisiana that we have that you don't really have?
For warbler migration, it was tough to, like, I didn't get Cape May warbler, and I feel like if I was here, I probably would have got it. Ceruleans are tough.
Were you saying palm warbler?
Yeah, I was in.
That's so weird.
I was in the northwest part of Louisiana on a bird walk with some really good birders, and we found a palm warbler, and it was like, I want to say like either like a second, third, or fourth county record. Like, it was some big deal. Like, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, we gotta like get documentation of it." And
did you get documentation of it?
What?
Did you get?
I did. I got a bad picture, but we documented it. So that was cool. I'll look up my life list real quick.
What were some of the new comments that came in?
Oh, well, Nick said he tries using the mobile app, but it won't let him log in.
Oh, no.
Have you ever had that issue?
I've never had that issue. Maybe just try getting rid of it from your phone, re-downloading it.
It's really particular about how you type in your username. Like, it has to be exactly the same as it is, like with the spaces and the capitalization.
You're talking like case sensitivity and
stuff.
As
far as the username. So make sure you're typing your username in right.
And the one, what are your birding goals? Let's say, what motivates your birding? I think that one thing that motivates my birding a lot is actually to find species that I think would be interesting for our viewers to see. So it's not so much like what do I want to see as much as it's like what would be fascinating to everybody else to see, I think. So that kind of motivates me to just go out and find new birds and getting new content for our viewers. Did you find it?
Yeah. So for my list for the world is 447 species, and then for the United States, I'm at 429.
That's pretty good. That's not bad.
So isn't like the big year total for the US like 700 something, isn't
That's
it?
pretty
Isn't that
crazy.
crazy?
Yeah, but I mean, we've never even gotten close to attempting a big year
Yeah.
in the ABA countable area.
I think as far as my goals for birding, um, I've been doing a lot of bird research stuff in Louisiana, so we'll be releasing a lot of those episodes. Um, so getting involved with the research side is really cool, and I think being able to record it and then show you guys and share some of the cool bird research that's been going on is one of my goals. I'd like to get more involved with the research too, and then we can get some up close things like that. I also like to work with more zoos and other organizations and kind of get some up close stuff with those, and really like get in the face of like some raptors
Get
and
in the
stuff.
face of 'em. There's so many interesting birds though that are at zoos and wildlife sanctuaries. Like we were at the Milwaukee County Zoo last week and we checked out the aviary and they have a Guam kingfisher, which I don't think there's any Guam kingfishers they know of that are left in the wild. So that's a bird that's like on the brink of potentially going extinct and the zoo has one. So
Yeah, we were
there's a lot of
also
interesting
at the
opportunities.
zoo. I think some of the species I thought were the coolest are the ones we have in the wild here, because we saw American oyster catchers are in the U.S. that we've seen before, and then they had avocets and stilts and buffleheads, and just even seeing those up close was really cool. I was a big fan of those. Do you usually have luck finding birds? I go to where eBird says, but really have luck finding the birds that others see. What are some tips you guys could share?
I'll speak to the eBird thing for a second. So one thing when we were first starting out, when we were like complete novices, that we would get kind of tricked by eBird is we assumed that since everything was on the list, it was seen, but a lot of the stuff ends up being heard only. So for us, just a bird being on a list doesn't mean that it's refindable again. So it could have been like a flyover, or it could have been a list that wasn't in the same place necessarily that it was reported in. I find that a lot of the stuff that we find is the easiest when it's reported on like a Facebook group or when it's a well-known spot for the
It
bird.
definitely helps if you can talk to the person who submitted the sighting and get some more information, because oftentimes I'll be like, hey, like I'd love to go see this one bird that you saw. Do you have any specifics on like where it
And they'll
was
be
at
like,
the
it was a
park or
flyover,
something
it's
like that?
gone.
And sometimes it will be stuff like that, but other times, I did the video about the vermilion flycatcher, and someone was actually giving me kind of vague instructions, like, "Oh, it's at the park," and I'm like, "Can you specifically
You're like,
tell me
thank
where
you.
at the park?" And he was like, "It's like the third tree by the second bathroom, and he'll forage there." And that was really useful to just know that I was in the right spot. Ethan says I got a lifer summer tanager today, and I'm assuming New Hampshire is NH.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome. I love
awesome. Yeah,
summer
that's a great
tanagers.
bird. They one of their favorite foods is bees. So you'll often see them around beehives and they like to catch bees and then rub the stinger off and eat
Yeah,
them.
we had one at Weir. I think that was my lifer summer tanager at Weir Nature Center in Milwaukee, and it was catching bee. They had like a bee box, and it would catch the bees, and then I would scrape the stinger off. Kobe said, "What's one bird you'd love to see one day?"
Do you have one you can think of?
I mean,
right off
there's
the
lots
bat?
of ones. I really love to see a sunbittern in the wild.
I don't even know where those live.
Um, but for those of you that don't know, they like when they open their wings, they have like the beautiful pattern. I'd love to see an American dipper. I think that'd be a really cool one that I haven't seen yet. Probably a lot of the South American birds are on my list. A kiwi.
Oh, kiwi would be cool. I feel
Kiwi
like
would
there's
be
a lot of
awesome.
stuff that we haven't gotten yet that's fairly common,
Mhm.
like in the United States. Like I still need to see a Clarkson nutcracker, like get a good view of one. Um, Barn owl,
Oh yeah.
pygmy owl, elf
I mean,
owl,
there's just like
all
so
of the
many. There's so
owls.
many cool birds out there. Like any, I guess kind of the cheeky answer people give is like, "Oh, what's your favorite bird?" And like the one I'm looking at.
The one that I'm looking at right now. How do you feel about penguins?
I like penguins.
Is that like something that you'd want to see in the wild a lot?
Definitely, I'd
Is that
love to
like
see
at the top
penguins.
of your list
I
though,
don't.
or
I don't know if it's at the top. I feel like it'd be very cold. I
no?
guess
Because like
some
some
aren't,
are like
but
right south of the equator.
I think that'd be really cool. I'd love to like help out with some penguin banding or something, where you get to see them up close. I think that'd be awesome. get underwater footage of penguins like
That would be pretty
swimming.
cool. Well, you want underwater footage of everything. Whenever there's an opportunity potentially to get underwater footage, he's like, "Can we do it?" Like, there's these ducks at a park in Waukesha where we live, and he's like, "Do you think I could get the camera close enough that we could get underwater footage?"
It's true. I just think that'd be really cool. Did you have one in particular you'd really love to see?
I think I'd like to see a barn owl.
Barn owl?
Yeah.
The most recent lifer. I might have to look at the list for that.
Yeah.
Well, it's right here, you know.
Oh yeah, I guess you have it up.
Do you know?
I'm trying to think of one that was in the state that was recent because that's kind of more interesting.
Is it?
I think so. I'm gonna have to check my eBird now.
I might. We'll go most recent. Well, I can tell you Wisconsin and Louisiana, I guess.
Go for it.
All right. I got a Townsend solitaire in Louisiana.
That wasn't a lifer.
No, but that was weird because the Townsend solitaires are in the thrush family. And normally in Wisconsin, you have to like hike to a like top peak and look out to look at the juniper trees because they feed on the juniper berries. And so I think of them as being much in that environment. But this one must have been migrating through because it was during the spring and it showed up and it was the 4th Louisiana state records. That was a really interesting one. My last lifer in Louisiana was a red cockaded woodpecker.
That's a cool
That's
one.
a good one.
My last Wisconsin one was Pacific loon, which we have a video coming out really soon about finding that. So that's going to be a cool one. And my most recent lifer overall was Barrow's Goldeneye.
Okay. Dang, I got to go back a ways for Wisconsin.
How often do you go birding is one that we just got to. I depends on the season, time of year. Usually in spring I go birding a ton and then I get burnt out by the time summer gets here, so I'm far less, like maybe once a week still in summer, but in spring, like whenever I have free time.
Well, I kind of feel like I'm birding all the time just because when you're out doing anything else, you'll notice the birds.
You're like, no matter what
You'll
you're
be
doing,
out and you'll be
you're
like,
birding.
oh, there's a blue-gray gnatcatcher. There's a, you know, something else. Like, it's hard to ignore them once you see. It's like, you know how they say if you're thinking about buying a certain type of car, you'll see that car everywhere. That is just like, but for birds, you're like, I see birds everywhere now.
Well, it's funny because you'll be somewhere where there shouldn't even really be birds. Like you'll be at a baseball game and like people are watching the game. You're like, there's a pigeon. I'm going to eBird that.
I think the lifer I got in Wisconsin last was the Kirtland warbler.
That's a cool one. It's a good lifer. Let's see what else we got. What do you enjoy doing outside of birding?
I'll let you start with that one.
Okay, so I'm a professional tennis coach for Wisconsin Lutheran College and then a private tennis coach at the Wisconsin Athletic Club. So I love to play tennis. Even when I'm not coaching, I love to play. I like drawing, just exploring new places, like going hiking
do you have
and
one
stuff.
of your paintings around?
Well, that's one.
This one's
It's not done yet, but
unfinished,
that's
though.
close enough. I do some drawing and painting, so I've been working on painting birds and stuff. Unfinished violet green swallows.
So my master's program is actually marine and environmental biology, so I'm working with GAR. I really love fish. We've been doing a lot of fishing lately. That's been really fun, and we like fishing for all different types. Like we like catching bowfin and
like
pike
river
and
fish,
anything that we can find, and like the little fish too. I actually have a fish channel too called Badgerland Fishes, but we don't have as much content on there. But we're working on getting some more
Nick
stuff.
says he did eBirding at a White Sox game a few weeks ago. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Wasn't there was some rail that showed up at a baseball game?
I think it was at Wrigley Field. It was a yellow rail showed up in the stands.
So definitely fish stuff is a big part of my life. I also play tennis. I was an instructor for a while. I actually helped him with one of his classes at the club the other day. Oh.
Someone said go Cubs go.
No Cubs stuff.
Well, they're down in the division right now to the Brewers. They're in second place.
I guess we can allow it. You guys did get the most recent World Series though between
not most recent, but
I mean most recent, like the Brewers haven't got one
they've
lately.
never even won a World Series, but the Bucks are going for it.
Yeah. So yeah, I like to draw and paint stuff too. I'm also a musician. I play and write music too. And then we both really like doing outdoor activities like hiking, biking, anything really outdoors related. I like rock climbing a lot too.
We got a good question just came in from Raymond, and it's what's the weirdest place you've seen a rare bird?
Um, hmm. I mean, we've talked about this before. Birding at the dump is always really weird because I was in Texas and we were looking for Tamaulipas crows. And we actually went to the Brownsville landfill, which is like kind of a famous birding location. They actually have signs in the dump that say like birding
Oh, really?
area. And it's a lot of Spanish speaking people down there. So when you come in, you have to say, like, I'm looking for birds in Spanish. And so,
Do
like,
you know how to say that?
I know pájaros is bird. So I think if I shut up, it's just like, I'd be like, I'd have a camera. I'd be like, pájaros.
You're just like, birds? Just
And
like, come
I
on
think
in.
they would understand. So I saw like Chihuahua ravens there. There was a little flock of cattle egrets there, and it was raining, and they just looked so done with everything. They looked so pissed.
Yeah, landfills are definitely a weird place. That was one place that we saw in a Big Year movie where he goes to the dump. It's probably the
I
same
think it
dump
is
actually
the
to find the
Brownsville
crows.
landfill.
Yeah. But then I was like, I'm definitely never going to a dump to bird. And then it was like a week later that a slaty back gull was reported at the dump. And sure enough, I went to the dump to try to find the slaty back gull.
Yeah, I remember
And I
that
was
being your
immersed.
thing of when we started. Like, I'm never gonna go to the
And then it
dump.
was literally like a week later. What do you think about the weirdness of going to people's houses to see birds? Because that's one thing that a lot of people are like, I don't want to do that. Like,
I think
it's
it's fine
weird.
if you ask for permission. Of course, I think if you do it without asking, then it's not good.
Well, yeah, if you just show up and like,
But like,
hey, I'm here for your
I'm
birds.
sure it happens. But I think a lot of the times the hosts are really nice, and the like. And if you saw the exciting Oriole Pines video, the family like invited me in and fed me gumbo and stuff, and like really like just talking about the birds. So I think it's can be a really cool experience for both sides. Um, Adair Bach said he saw an American Dipper last year. That's awesome.
Those are cool birds. They just plunge right into the water. They don't even
It's the
care.
underwater American Dipper.
If you could try, it would be really
You'd probably have
cool.
to like set it where you think it's going to be and then walk away.
It would probably be like one of those things where filmmakers are out for 3 years trying to get one shot.
I'm sure
Like the guy with the
they already have
kingfisher
it.
that just
Somebody
tried to
has
get
it.
the perfect picture of it plunging in the water.
Any common birds you're missing for Wisconsin or Louisiana? I've been doing a lot of birding in Louisiana. So right now, like for the year, the main things I need are Bachman sparrow, northern bobwhite, king rail. I somehow haven't seen yet, and then I feel like there's one more. Oh, well, wood stork I haven't seen yet. So it's mostly like and wild turkey.
You
Like
still need wild
those are
turkey.
like the only ones that really show up on my needs list right now. My Wisconsin list is a mess because I haven't really been here.
I still need, just for a life bird, I need Wimbrel in Wisconsin. And then I need some stuff that I've seen other places like tricolored heron, where like one will get reported way up north. And I don't really feel like going to see it because I've seen them so much in South Carolina and Florida that it just doesn't seem as important to go look for it. Roseate spoonbill, I still need. Haven't seen that one in any of the southern states. And some show up in Minnesota, so that
Did
one I
they?
need to. Well, I think it was either last year or this previous year. They were at a
Minnesota's been getting a ton of rarity. I remember I saw a list of rare birds from Minnesota, and I was like, this could just be a Louisiana list because it had Wilson's plover.
Oh, really?
It was like a couple herons. They had a limpkin. We've been getting a lot of limpkin moving into Louisiana because they eat the apple snails, and the apple snails invaded us, and so now the limpkin invaded us, which is pretty cool.
Well, one of the guys that we talked to from Minnesota named Matthew, I saw he posted recently on Facebook that he had bird number 300 already.
Yeah, he's been having a great year.
That's pretty solid though, 300, and it's not even fall yet.
Yeah,
because then that other migration wave comes through.
Over 300 in Louisiana is considered like a really good year too.
Like you're the cream of the crop birder.
It's like I remember someone to be like, "Yeah, I did a 300 year a few years ago," so it's like a thing. Love the videos. Always look forward to new ones. Thanks. Anything birds I'm all about. Just jumped in. So everybody asks, oh, why no binoculars? People want to know.
Yeah, that's a common question that we get. And it's because when we were first learning, it was so much easier to zoom in with a camera and take a picture and then be able to identify it after the fact than carrying around bird books and using your binoculars to look and then having to figure out what it is. Yeah. And then it's stuck. Like I'm just comfortable using the camera.
Yeah, I always liked having like documentation of what we were seeing, but I honestly think I just got used to it. To the point where it just became easier. And people always ask about the camera equipment, so I was going to go over that real quick. We'll answer this one first. Are either you pursuing a career in biology or ornithology?
You are.
You want to go first?
So I had a basically business and communications degree, and am not pursuing anything like that. I just kind of do it on the side. But it's funny because I tell people like I know way more about birds and fish and other animals than I do about business, I think. So just like the stuff you're interested in becomes what you learn about with or without a formal education about it.
Yeah. I'm pursuing my master's in marine and environmental biology. So that's, bio related. As far as the bird stuff, while I've been down there, I've been able to help out with a lot of bird research and learn about other people's projects and things. And we'll be releasing a bunch of episodes about that research and all the cool stuff that's going on down there. So, I haven't decided if I want to go for a PhD or anything after my master's. I'm kind of just gonna, see what happens and look at the opportunities after that. But I definitely wouldn't be opposed to, having a career doing some kind of bird research. I definitely love being involved with animals. So, as far as camera stuff, we had a question on, I think it was on our YouTube page,
Yeah, we
on the
get this
post
question a
about
lot
what
too.
kind of equipment we use. So, when we started out, this was the camera that we used. It's the Panasonic Lumix DMC FZ70. And I actually got it because I was reading a ton of reviews about cameras, and this one had a really long zoom. So I was like, that'll be useful. It was a point and shoot, so I thought it'd be pretty easy to use. And then it also had a really great microphone because I saw videos of people recording at loud concerts, and it actually sounded really good. Like it wasn't blown out or anything. So we both got one of these when we started out, and we really loved using these. I thought the picture quality on these was great. Like I took some photos that I've hung up on the wall because I thought they turned out really nice and crisp. And so this is the FZ70, and then the new version of that camera came out, which is the Panasonic Lumix DMC FZ80. And it takes amazing video. I think the video quality is better on this, but I feel like the picture quality went down for some reason. It just doesn't seem as crisp.
Yeah, it feels
Photos
a little
always
fuzzy
seem a
compared to the
little
ones we used to
blurrier.
take.
And for some reason, they put on a terrible windscreen. I don't know if you can tell the difference between the two here. This one had like a wind shield on it. So if there's really any wind, you can't hear anything anybody's saying. And we'll look at videos where it was barely windy and we'll be like, was it really that windy that day? And it
Well, we've gotten
wasn't.
a couple comments too, like from people that must also be taking videos or content creators. They're like, I too struggle with wind issues, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, ugh.
And people are like, oh, you can put an external microphone on here, but unfortunately with these, they're not compatible with external mics, at least with what we found. And the issue that we've had with these is since you can't take this off and add other lenses to it, they sometimes get dust in them, and so you'll have a dust on the sensor that creates like a little black spot. And we had our dad assisted in opening them up to try to clean them up, and it's just, they're not meant to be opened, so it's kind of a disaster trying to clean that once it gets wrecked. And I think we had the Weird Birds of South Carolina video we did. I'm pretty sure we got sand in it from that because it was ridiculously
It was like
windy
an
that
actual
day.
sandstorm. I think they just wear out after a while too, like the zoom issues. I think just
yeah,
after a
we've
certain
had some
amount of
other
time.
issues, but like they're a really great camera for the price and really versatile. And this is basically what we use for almost everything. But if you store them in a plastic bag, that'll also help prevent dust from getting in.
I think we never really intended on doing that much video stuff with it either.
But
So we
like the
kind of
new
lucked
one, the
out that
video
it was
quality
good.
is great. And then I actually got this tripod I have over here. It's an Andor tripod, and it's actually made for video cameras, so it's really heavy. But I've been using it for videos now where the birds are more like in one place, and this mixed with the camera takes really nice still videos. And then I also have this Nikon D5300 with an external mic that I've been using for more vlog style stuff. I have a wide angle lens on it, so it's really good if you want to just film yourself. It has the pop out screen, so you can actually see and focus while you're doing that. So I've been using this more because the quality is really great for that, and the external mic cleans up a lot of that wind noise. So that's kind of the gear we're using now. I plan on doing a full like camera review of everything so you can get a better idea of how everything works, but that's kind of the basic idea. Gabe said, who's older? I honestly can't tell from watching your videos for a bit.
I'm older, but Derek has a more older person haircut.
Thank you. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay, I'm 26 years old.
People think I'm like in high school still though.
Yeah, I think it's the hair.
Even when I have a haircut, I remember when I was like, when I first turned 21, I was at a bar with my friend. Oh, this was actually when I was like 22, I think. And the waitress wouldn't even card me because she said it was such a waste of time. She's like,
Really? I
yeah,
don't think I ever heard that
she's
story.
like, you're obviously school. And I was like, you
That's
don't want
rude.
to check?
Did you make her look? Were you like, look at this?
I don't remember how it played out.
But yeah, I think we both look fairly young for our ages. What do you think the longest you've traveled for a specific rare bird is?
I think like 8 hours, because I remember one day or one year actually, our friend Bill and I went across the entire state birding because we just started off getting really lucky with the rare stuff and just kept it going and ended up with a high total. But there was one day, I think you were there as well, where we went to Superior, which was
Yeah.
like somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 hours to find Jaegers. And so we drove there in
I
one
was
day
not
and then
there for
drove
Jaegers.
back.
I was there for, we saw a common eider up there. And
Yeah,
the Great Crown
yeah.
Rosy Finch.
That was a long day too.
As far as Wisconsin, I think the max you can really drive from one edge to the other is around 6 hours. So that's probably like about the max. If you want to talk like state to state kind of thing, Ryan had a tennis recruiting trip in Texas and we ended up going to Oklahoma and then Texas. So if you like want to count that, that's like,
It wasn't really for a specific
no,
bird though,
but it's, you know, a decent trip to you know, look at other birds and stuff like that. So I think, you know, probably starting one day being like, I'm going to go for this specific bird is about 6 hours would be.
yeah, there's some people that
longest.
I know that something will show up in Arizona that'll be like an ABA rarity and they're like gone. You know,
Yeah.
they'll go get it. So we definitely haven't been as hardcore as some of those people, but I think those people are retired usually or
Yeah,
independently
well, I also
wealthy.
feel like I'm just fascinated by stuff nearby too. It's just like there's so much cool stuff to see.
I'm sure there's going to come a point though where you're like, I've seen pretty much everything there is to see, and you need that seems to be the natural way that people progress in their birding. Is they'll start small, get bigger, bigger, bigger. Eventually, they'll go across to different states, and then they'll kind of bring it back in again and focus on like breeding birds or
Their
learning about
patch,
birds.
or they'll do a yard list.
Yeah, they find new goals or like green big ears or something like that. So that's kind of the progression that it seems to go in.
Was there ever a bird that kept avoiding either of you? The Dovecki avoided me for 5 years after dozens of trips to see it. That sounds like an awesome bird to see.
That is.
I'm
cool
assuming
bird.
you got it if you're mentioning it.
We've had two birds I can think of off the bat that avoided us. One was a cinnamon teal that we did a video on.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was the same cinnamon teal that we missed like 2 or 3 times, then eventually got it. But that was all in 1 year. And then yellow-breasted chat for a long time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And we did a video on that too.
This year in particular, I've heard whippoorwills here in Wisconsin, but in Louisiana, there was a whippoorwill spotted at this one place. And it was kind of this secluded forest. And it was in Baton Rouge. So it was like an hour and 20, no, probably more like an hour and 40 minutes away from me. And I think I went 3 times to try to find it. And there were different people there. And we never found it at that location. But other people would go in between. And someone had like a picture from like a few feet away of it on a log. They're just like, are you serious? And so that one was very elusive. And then I ended up getting it in the like Shreveport area on a trip with John Dillon, who's president of the Louisiana Ornithological Society. But we had Chuckwill's widow is the more common one there. And eastern whippoorwill is harder to find, which here it's reversed, where Chuck's is, you know, the harder one to find. So that one was very elusive. But it was frustrating because other people were seeing it in between. And when I was there, I'd go with different people, or different people would be there, and they'd all just be like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, this year, yellow-throated warbler was in the South KM. And I've tried to see that a couple of times and haven't found it. And people keep reporting it. And it would be like, yeah, I was here 15 minutes ago. Like, okay, I'll probably come back. Never came back.
Before, though.
I've seen it before, so I didn't care about it that much, but it's still being seen, so I might go back.
Yeah, yellow-throated warblers are so cool. They're probably one of my favorite warblers.
Well, they're pretty rare for our specific county. They can be seen in some parts of the state fairly regularly during spring.
I'd say that's a bird that's easier to find in Louisiana for sure.
I would say so too. They're more of a southern species.
And they really like to hang out in the Spanish moss.
No, in
Yeah.
Wisconsin, we get some of those birds that are more southern breeders that get into like the Mississippi Valley, southwest corner of the state, and then we get the boreal birds that come in from the north in the winter. So we actually have a good assortment of birds, I feel, especially with some of the migratory pathways going over. But
Yeah.
the county that we live in, there's two migratory flight paths that go right around it. So like we either have to go to Milwaukee or Madison usually to find the good migrants.
You get some good stuff
Not
here
this
though.
year.
Well, um Chloe B says, "Thanks for all the wonderful videos." Of course, we love making the videos a lot, and we were actually just saying like, I find that it's like really enhanced my like birding. Actually, like I really enjoy birding, and then like making a film about it. Because even if you're having a rough day, you feel like you're kind of with somebody. You know, if I'm by myself and I'm able to talk to like the camera and know that somebody's gonna
I
see
feel
it,
like you're like, well, I whiffed on this again. I'm totally posting that.
it makes it a little easier to be like, well, at least, you know, something will come of it, or the viewers can share in my pain of, you know, not seeing this thing or whatever. Um, so yeah, thanks so much for the comment. What other wildlife do you enjoy seeing when out birding? We look at everything. I was out with one of my friends in Louisiana, and we saw a school of bullheads. When they have their little babies, they're just like a big ball, and then the parents will hang out there too to protect them. So we saw that. We saw some crayfish. We had a butterfly that kept like landing on us. It would land on my hat. And we saw a couple different species of dragonfly. And with the non-bird stuff, well, I guess everything. You can take a
Well, I
picture
really
and
like the
upload it to
reptiles and the amphibians. Those are the ones that I like the most. And if you watch any of our Oklahoma videos, we were with our friend Alex Harmon, who is a entomologist from Oklahoma State University for his graduate degree. So he was pointing out all the different insects to us, and we found a tarantula and tarantula hawk wasps, and it was really cool to be with somebody,
collared
yeah, the
lizards,
collared lizards,
really
who
cool.
knew so much about insects, because we are not great with insects other than some like butterfly and moth species. And it was cool to be with him where he was just like, oh yeah, that's one of these, that's one of these, that one's rare, that one's not
Yeah.
rare.
And what I was gonna say is you can post pictures of like insects and stuff to iNaturalist, and there's a good community of people there that can help you identify that stuff. Especially like the insects and the things that are a little tougher to identify. I always like looking for snakes and lizards when we're out, particularly, and like turtles and stuff.
Yeah, we found some cool ones. One of our friends who we met in the birding community, but he's also really into reptiles, amphibians. He took us to find rattlesnakes last year. That was a
really
cool
cool.
experience.
It's different with like looking for snakes and turtles and stuff, because we were talking about, you know, doing some episodes looking for those, but you feel like you really can't disclose their location at all, because
People
will go and take them
for
or
the pet
harass
trade.
them. And with birds, if you're leading people to them, you know, the idea is you don't want to be too particular, but they can fly away if they're harassed, like if they don't have a nest or something like that. But with reptiles, they kind of stay in one place and they don't really have a ton of defense mechanisms, you know, unless they're venomous or something.
Yeah, there
But
still
it's a
have been
different
issues
thing.
though with people like Kirtland's warblers,
Yeah,
a
with
bird
people
that's really
harassing, or
susceptible
owls, you know,
to
people
like
scaring
the
owls
nest being
away.
destroyed. So there are some instances where people are really hesitant to report different bird sightings, and especially with photographers, sometimes we'll get too close to things. So it's become sort of an issue.
It can be. Quinn says he was happy to find the Dovecki in a freshwater pond after storm, so he did find it. So that's awesome. That's a bird I'd like to see.
Dovekey.
Is it?
I don't know for sure.
Sometimes with
I've never
names,
heard anyone say it out loud, to be honest.
That's good. Has there ever been one in the state? I feel like there hasn't.
There was one in Illinois, I think, in Chicago, actually. I think Bill went to see it.
Okay. And then Rebecca says she's from South Texas. South Texas is great. I actually took a trip there with some friends of mine, so we'll be doing some episodes from there, but it's a really cool place to bird. I love all the South Texas specialties, like the green jays and all the different
That's like a different world, because when we were in North Texas, there was some cool stuff, but it was like very similar to Wisconsin with the vibe. And then as soon as we got into like Central and South Texas, there was cacti and different lizards, and it was just a totally different feel compared to what was in North Texas.
Yeah, you start encountering those different species, and yeah, just a totally different vibe, different habitat. That's something I really like about birding in Wisconsin, though. There's just so many different habitats. There's like spring green, which is like the desert. There's the western, more hilly areas. There's the northern boreal parts. There's the, just big forests. There's like the pine areas. There's the rivers. There's a lot of different habitats, not just kind of like it's all monotone, like it's all the same thing.
Also, we should talk about our merch a little bit. We finally have t-shirts. As you can see, I'm wearing one. We have them in a bunch of different colors, and we also have die-cut
Mugs,
stickers,
stickers.
and then our Let's Chat themed mug. So if anybody
Right.
is interested in those, you can get those from our website on the merchandise tab, or you can go to our Teespring site.
And the website link is just badgerlandbirding.wordpress.com.
Yep.
Okay.
If you just type in Badgerland Birding into a search engine, you'll probably find it. It's
Okay.
usually what comes
Awesome.
up.
Yeah, I have one of the mugs. It was before we put the Let's Chat sticker on it, but it's really nice and durable. It has the logo on it. And then we added the Let's Chat just because we love chats.
Yeah, what I want to see someday is just out birding, spy somebody with a Badgerland Birding shirt on.
Well, the t-shirt's held up pretty well too.
Oh yeah, this has been washed a bunch of times already, and it looks good still.
Yeah, I like the black t-shirt, but I think the blue turned out pretty cool.
Yeah,
too.
we also have like light blue, navy blue, green.
And if you guys want any other merch, it's the kind of thing where we can like add different things. So if there's something particular you'd be interested in, we can, see what we can do about adding it. We had that question about I think Miss D on our Instagram. We're on Instagram, Badgerland Birding, if you haven't followed us there yet. We had a question about great horned owl territory. Like what's a great horned owl's normal territory? So
it's ranging anywhere from 0.25 miles to about 5 miles, and it's greatly dependent on what food is available at the time. So if food is very abundant, they'll have a smaller territory. If food is not really available, then they'll have a larger territory.
This is casting a shadow. So I'm gonna move it.
I was like, is he ready to go somewhere now?
There's a bird. I gotta get out of here. That's a pretty large range, in my opinion, like 5 miles covering.
Yeah.
But so it was interesting. I went out to ban Swainson's warblers with a friend of mine in Louisiana. And there was this one, we were trying to ban new birds because he had banded some in the area. And we kept encountering this one that was already banded. And so we saw it in one area and then we were way on the other side and it showed up over there too. So it was covering this huge territory. We're like, it's great that you're, having such a large area, but hopefully he's able to defend that whole thing from predators.
So I had a few questions that we get asked kind of often that I thought you could reflect on.
Okay.
So what is your favorite episode that we've done so far?
Just like in general.
Yep, just in general. Like if you had to watch one on a loop for 24 hours straight.
I feel like I really enjoyed our Oklahoma episodes because I didn't really know much about Oklahoma until we were there. And then we just kind of showed up at these areas, like the Wichita Mountains were really cool. We just kind of showed up in these areas that were just really iconic looking. Like Gloss Mountain was that big red clay mesa. And it just kind of pops up. And it wasn't something that I'd really
you were obsessed with the great
researched.
horned owl calling on the mesa.
I was, yeah.
You just
that
kept
was
talking
awesome.
about it over and over.
I think because we didn't really plan what episodes we were going to do in Oklahoma. We were just like,
nor did we in Texas.
No. And so Alex was just kind of like, oh, these are some cool places we could go. So we decided where we wanted to go while we were there. And it just kind of really caught us by surprise. I feel like if I researched it beforehand and I kind of knew what to expect, it wouldn't have been as breathtaking as opposed to just showing up and being like,
well, we literally were just like, yeah, Alex will be here at this time on this date. And then you can take it from there. And then he was like, yeah, we're going to go to this place. We'll go to that place too. So
yeah, it was really cool. Really so well. Maybe the Gloss Mountain episode.
Okay. How did you first get into birding?
Oh, let me hear what your favorite one was.
I honestly really like the Boundary Waters episode because I love the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. We always go on fishing / camping trips there. And it's so fun to relive that week that we were there, especially when
there's also no cell phone reception there. And so I don't know about you, but for me, it kind of feels like a detox. The first couple days, I'm like I look at my phone and I'm like, there's nothing on here.
You get
that's
the chance
new.
to actually detach, and then you're forced to look at the wildlife.
For the first, I'm looking anyways.
Well, I'm just saying that's all you have.
For the first couple days, I really want to look at it, and then by the end, I'm like, do I have to look at my phone again?
Well, what's weird is when you get back in the cell phone range, your cell phone explodes with all these people that have been emailing you and texting you.
And you're like, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to fish and look at birds. We had a question. What's your favorite bird?
I think that I have two: the red-breasted nuthatch and then the nighthawk. And the red-breasted nuthatch was a bird that I liked to see in my grandparents' yard when I was a kid. And it just stuck with me because it was kind of rare from my grandparents' yard, and it would just show up like once in a while. And I was like, that one's different. I like that one.
They have a lot of character.
They do. And the nighthawks are so strange with just how they look in general
So
and
there's
the noise they
common
make
and
their
lesser.
fly
So you
over.
going common?
Well, common, yeah, that's all I've seen.
Mine is the scissor-tailed flycatcher, and I feel like it's kind of a lot of people's favorite birds. Now I feel like I should change it, but I've already like declared it, so I feel like I have to stick with it.
You can't take it back.
They're just beautiful.
You're basically a bandwagon bird fan.
I have a mug. I want to see if I can find it real quick. Do
you have any idea where this mug is?
Yeah, it's up in the cabinet.
Or are you just gonna be gone for like 10 minutes?
I gotta see a bird.
Well, one thing that I was going to answer while he's looking for the mug is a lot of people ask how we first got into birding, because we're obviously fairly young for birders, because the general demographic people believe is, like retired person, 60 to 80 years old. And we were just very taken with wildlife to start with. And then one thing that really added to it was when the big year came out and we saw the big year on TV. And it was a realization that people actually do this as a hobby.
I feel like it wasn't when
it
hadn't it been out for a while. It
was out for a while, but we finally saw it on TV.
Here's the mug. It's got a scissor-tailed flycatcher. And then I also found this one we had that's a red-bellied woodpecker.
Good job.
Mugs. Did you oh yeah, so scissor-tailed flycatcher. They're just so long tail is so cool. And I love the peach under the wings. They're just an awesome, like really elegant bird. So that's why they're my favorite. But fork-tailed flycatcher is really cool too, like swallow-tailed kites. Also
basically like anything with two different tails.
Yeah, anything with a forked tail. Jay says nighthawks are one of his favorite too.
Hey, there it is.
They are. Baby nighthawks are ridiculously adorable. If you haven't ever looked at a baby nighthawk, make sure you
Derek,
do.
Where would they see baby nighthawks?
They're going to be featured in an episode. And my friend Katie, one of her field techs one year, called them floof goblins. That was his term for them. So it's very appropriate. I might actually be able to, I don't know if I'll be able to show you guys this because it's on my phone, but we'll see. For the floof goblin.
I was like here in fall, like September and late August, you get a flyover of them going south. So you suddenly just see all these nighthawks pop up in the evening.
All right. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that, but look at that. My friend Adrian sent me this picture.
That's a ridiculous looking creature.
They always look grumpy too. Like, what do you want?
That's because they are. They're just upset that you're there.
Gabe said, what country do you want to go bird the most?
New Zealand, to see the kiwi.
New Zealand would be cool. I think
Is that also where the kakapo parrot lives?
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, anything in South America would be really cool.
See, South America I'm a little iffy on because they have bot flies.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in South America, but I thought Louisiana would just be filled with things that want to kill me, but it hasn't really been
alligators,
like that.
Mosquitoes.
Alligators haven't been as big of a problem as I thought they would be. Like I thought anytime you go by the water,
alligator you don't see.
Gabe says bot flies are worth it. I thought it'd be anytime you go by the water, a gator would just like lunge out and try to get you, and there'd just be like cottonmouths and venomous snakes everywhere, but it really hasn't been like that.
Well, remember when we were in South Carolina and there was like a ditch that had turtles in it, and we decided we wanted to catch some of the turtles, and a bunch of locals would go by and be like, don't be doing that.
Yeah, I think we were there in the winter though, so I think the gators are
I don't think they were as bad, but I think that people still get killed in South Carolina because of alligators.
I like how we're referring to them like they're inside. Oh, the gators are bad this time.
Well, they kind of are.
They'll get you.
It's been a rainy season. The gators will be bad. Those are the things you have to worry about in the South that you don't have to worry about up here.
All right, what was your next question, Jan?
I was going to ask you how you got into birding. Was it basically the same, or did you have a different path?
Well, like you said, we would always watch birds at our grandpa's house, and he would always have tons of feeders, and we would have like a yard list, and he had the little Stan Tequila Birds of Wisconsin book, the little blue one. So we'd always be looking through that to see what kind of birds were around. And then we watched The Big Year, and it was just such an inspiring movie that we were like, oh, like, we should try that, because it took him on all these adventures. And so we went out and we looked in the bird books. We're like, oh, these birds are here, and we've never seen them. And then we went out and there was like nothing. This was the middle of winter.
Yeah, we went to the Kelly State Forest, and we expected to see all this stuff like great gray owls and
we're like, oh, these crossbills should be here.
Like the range shows they're here. They have to be here.
And so there really wasn't much of anything out. And we're like, well, we're really bad at this. And so we started getting connected to like other birders and looking at those birding resources. And then from there, we just started seeing stuff. And like, I remember we always talk about the common goldeneye we saw near our house in the winter, and we were like, "What the heck is that? That's amazing!" And we
We had
didn't know what
never
it
seen
was,
one before.
so it was just this crazy thing that appeared in a place we'd been a ton of times but never looked.
Yeah, well, I don't think we paid much attention. Another one we always saw in the bird book was the American coot when we were
Right,
little,
like
and we
I
were
was like,
like,
I
"That would
always
be
want to
so
see an
cool to see a
American coot.
coot," and then now they're just all over the place.
Right. And so once you start paying attention to those things, you start noting them. And I think for us, you know, we were into Pokemon and stuff as a kid. So it's kind of the same theme of like not really collecting, but just
But
seeing
kind of
new things and
collecting.
having something to like add to like
I
your
mean,
list or saying I've
photographers even
seen one of
say,
those.
like, nice capture,
That's
so it
true.
definitely has some collecting aspect to it.
Yeah, but and also like there can be a competitive aspect to it, which I think is really cool too. I was gonna be in this big day competition in Louisiana, but it ended up raining and canceling it. But I thought that was gonna be really cool. What's your favorite bird you've seen in Wisconsin?
Oh, yeah, okay. It's a good question. Do you have one off the top of your head?
Well, it's interesting because do you pick one that's rare or do you just pick one that you really like? Because I think the gray crown rosy finch was really cool.
That was a cool one.
That was a rare one that
I was
showed
gonna
up.
say potentially spruce grouse because that was the only one I've ever seen.
He's gritting. Wasn't there two there?
I think there was
Yeah, there were
two, but that
more
was
than
like the only encounter that I've ever seen.
one. Well, I got scissor-tailed. We got scissor-tailed flycatcher in Wisconsin.
We did.
That was
do
really
that,
cool.
Yeah. There's like I think another one is Townsend solitaire because that was like our first real adventure type bird that we got because the Townsend solitaires in Wisconsin in winter one of the most popular places for them to be is Devil's Lake. And Devil's Lake, for anyone that doesn't know it, it's kind of a large bluff that has a lot of juniper trees. And so you have to walk up this bluff either on this really steep rocky trail or this really long, slowly upward sloping trail. And we did all this work to get up this snow-covered bluff, and then right at the top,
It was dead silent too.
yeah,
There's nobody
well,
else
gentle
around.
snow falling. The sun is like half out, and all of a sudden, this bird, this gray bird, kind of ducks down, comes back up, and it happens to be the Townsend solitaire. And we got like a look at it sitting on a branch with the background of like a snowy, wintry backdrop. And then Derek got a picture of it with the snowflakes in the foreground too. And it was like our first, we put a lot of work into this adventure of finding this bird and we got it. So that was really cool. That was one of the ones I'll always remember.
Yeah, like anyone where you take some expedition to like a specific place, like going to Wyalusing to find the cerulean warblers there, like that was really cool. And if it's a distinct habitat, I feel like because spring, anything with spring green is really cool, and they all have these like specific birds there. What is your favorite Wisconsin winter bird? I mean, I really like the pine and evening grosbeaks.
Yeah,
Anytime that those come down, and you can see one of those.
I think the crossbills, because I feel like winter, you're kind of talking winter finches
Boreal
usually.
stuff.
Yeah. Also Harlequin duck usually shows up in fall and winter. That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean any of the boreal birds are really cool though.
Because they're not always there.
Right.
So
and they're eruptive. For those of you that don't know what eruptive means, it's like based on their food source, they'll come down in greater numbers or lesser numbers. And so it's not a guarantee that it'll be a good year for any of those like winter finch type birds. So you definitely have to, like, we had a really good winter last winter. And so you really got to take advantage of them when you can. But the crossbills, they have actually like the crossed bill that they use to open the conifer seed. So really unique like bird, and you can understand why people like Matt Young, like they're
there's an entire
by
winter
'em.
finch network now. For
That's
those
true.
birds that
Yeah,
come down.
there's
Like,
people
I
love
think
them.
I don't remember if you ever got his merch out, but they had like a logo and it looked cool.
They did. They partnered with Bird Collective, I think, so they released some stuff from there.
Well, that's an interesting thing to look into as well.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever done a pelagic trip or planning to do it? I was able to do a pelagic a few years ago, and it was an amazing experience. The highlight was the white-faced storm petrel. It sounds awesome. Cool. They used to do pelagics in Louisiana, and they were trying to start them up again. And if they do, I'd love to do it. I actually kind of did a pelagic. because
What, you took a canoe out?
my
And
friend and I went scuba diving in Pensacola, Florida, and we were looking for northern gannets and other stuff. And we actually did see a couple gannets out there.
that's cool.
So that was really cool. So that was kind of like a pelagic, but it definitely wasn't for us to birds. They were going really fast, and we were trying to get the camera on stuff, and it was almost impossible to like get a picture of anything. So we didn't get pictures. Oh, and there's water spraying in the boat, and I'm in the back. And so I'm trying to make sure my camera doesn't just get soaked with salt water.
I think a pelagic would be really cool. I actually was trying to see northern gannets in South Carolina, and I didn't know much about where they were seen, but I would see them reported on like some beaches and stuff. And there were these local birders there, and they were on the elderly side. And I was like, "Oh, do you guys ever see gannets here?" And this one lady just goes, "If you see a gannet here, it's either dying or dead." And it's just like, oh, okay.
Well, that's true. A lot of the times it will blow up onto the mainland beaches when they're sick or
Yeah.
something like that.
I didn't need that slap of reality though. She could have just said no.
Like, well, that ruins the day.
Yeah, just a no would have sufficed.
Yeah, Rebecca Clark says, "Yo, I'm from South Texas." I do love South Texas. Did you have what other questions did you have?
A lot of them we answered already, talking about like favorite birds and stuff like that. So.
Okay, well, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So I know
yes, my hair is real.
Everybody wanted to know. What's your favorite owl? Because you've always loved. I mean, we both loved owls, but you in particular, I feel like you've always just loved owls.
Yeah, the thing about owls is that I always feel like such a poser talking about owls because it's a bird that everybody loves. So, you know, whenever I'm like, oh yeah, owls are the best, I just feel like
I feel like it's just collectively known as like people like that owls are awesome.
Yeah, I really like screech owls. I like that they have the two different colors of the eastern screech owl. I like their whinny call. They are kind of funny because they just look like little pumpkins sitting in bird houses and tree cavities. So that would have to be one of my favorite. So someone's asking favorite tennis player too. I always liked Juan Martín del Potro from Argentina, and then I also cheer for the American tennis players.
He liked him because he had a big forehand, and he had a big forehand.
Yeah,
well, I guess he still do.
Well, Juan Martín del Potro would just swing really hard at every ball, and he would just obliterate it, and so he was always fun to watch. Out of the birds in the thumbnail photo, which is your favorite? What was it? Scarlet Tanager.
It was a summer Tanager and indigo bunting. Okay. It's like a red versus blue. Yeah. Like, what's your favorite color? I think I'm gonna have to go with the indigo bunting because that particular indigo bunting was the sleepiest one I'd ever seen. That was in Grand Isle, Louisiana. So a big wave of migrants had come through, and they had just gone over the ocean, like presumably. So everything is exhausted. And that one just sat there for like 5 minutes, and I had my tripod set up on it.
Well, where's this? Sleeping. What's the story behind the summer tanager?
The summer tanager was also in Grand Isle, but there were a lot of summer tanagers that day, and it was pretty active.
So yeah, I would go with the summer tanager because indigo buntings are pretty common here in the summer, but I've only seen like a couple summer tanagers.
Yeah, we get a lot of tanagers down south. That bunting was just so cute, though.
Our mom loves indigo buntings.
I mean, what's not to love?
Well, she just adores indigo bunting.
I'd actually like to ask you guys a question. What's your favorite bird? If you want to throw it in the chat, we'll see if we have like a majority consensus of one species or if it's kind of all over the map.
I like the question we just got. Have you witnessed proper fallout in Louisiana?
Well, the answer is no, because I had trips planned with other people. And so when the big fallout was happening, I was gone. And so I'd come back, be like, oh, you missed it. There were like 30 prothonotary warblers. And there's one, well, not 30, but like, you know, there was a tree with 5 prothonotary warblers in it at one time. It was insane. You should have been there.
Have you ever experienced fallout in Wisconsin?
I don't think so.
Kind of. Not proper fallout, but we do end up with stuff traveling over Lake Michigan and they run into a front.
Yeah. It's not to the degree of down south, though, from what I've heard. And then,
well, I've seen the big year. I know what it looks like.
In Texas, there was some fallout on South Padre Island, but when we were there, we wanted to see the South Texas specialties, so we didn't go for that either. So I feel like every time there's been
you're just fallout,
I haven't seen it. Meh. So that's been kind of frustrating. But at this, I'm like trying to find the rarer stuff, but there's just something about being in an area with tons of warblers that's like really relaxing.
I've never felt relaxed. I always feel frantic trying to not miss anything.
Well, it's just like, you know, you're in the thick of like all these beautiful birds and you can just like, you know, see how many species you can find. I think it's relaxing.
Whenever there's a ton of birds like that, I'm just like, what am I missing?
I'm freaking out.
What do I take a picture of? What do I need videos of? Jackson Brunner. Jackson, thanks for tuning in. Jackson's one of my tennis students who just said hello to us. Jackson, what's your favorite bird? Raymond went for American Kestrel, and then Kate for chickadees.
I think those are both great picks. Kestrels, there have been some nest box programs happening in our state.
Well, that was one of the first things we went to, was this program where they were talking about chimney swifts and kestrels. And I remember we got thanked by the program director for coming to a bird thing and being young, which was funny.
Yeah.
He was just like, guys, thanks for being young.
That was also the day we saw our first, we had our first experience with chimney swifts going into a chimney, and that was amazing.
I think the first year we birded was kind of magical because literally everything was new. So like even the most basic species, like you mentioned, chimney swift, was like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, and we would bird at Red Deer Nature Center and watch a lot. And we go to our friend Larry, who's a naturalist there, and ask him about pictures of things we saw. And we actually, one of the first birds that we kind of saw that year was a red-shouldered hawk, which is actually really rare for the state. And we were like, what's this thing? And we narrowed it down and submitted it, and they didn't think it was true on eBird, but we had the photos that
I got questioned on eBird.
Like, well, that's one of the benefits.
Did you really see a red-shouldered hawk?
Having the photos too, especially when you're starting out. And I just like having photos of stuff.
Jackson said blue jay.
Blue jays are cool. Our friend Leslie loves blue jays.
Yeah, Jackson, we got a lady in Canada whose videos you can watch.
We are going to do some, well, blue jays are on our eruptive species list, so we're going to be covering them at some point too. But yeah, Leslie is definitely a blue jay expert. Leslie the Bird Nerd, her channel. I know some of you probably from her videos, and we love doing collaborations with her too. Chloe says she's always loved owls, Team Owl.
Yeah.
I know this isn't exciting, but I love American goldfinch. American goldfinches are great.
I mean, I feel like it's nice to have a bird that's not like the most extravagant. They are kind of extravagant in color, but like not super uncommon, you know?
Don't have a favorite bird, but green jay, all woodpeckers. That's bold. All of them. And southern wattled cassowary. That sounds like something I want to see.
Yeah, no kidding. Cassowary, in my opinion, cassowaries, ostriches, and emus are the birds that I pictured to be most like actual dinosaurs.
What about the like little black rail out there?
No, not so much. I don't get that vibe.
What about penguin?
That doesn't look like a dinosaur. I picture like a gallimimus looking basically exactly like an ostrich with a tail.
Nighthawk and eiders, those are both cool.
Nighthawk, see.
Blue jays and owls, both popular. Birds not around Illinois. Panamanian birds, the toucans and araucaries.
That's cool. They have an araucari at the Milwaukee County Zoo.
Yeah, he specifically has a sign on him that says he's not a toucan. Yeah, so
he basically is a toucan, though.
Nick's at penguins. My advisor, who loves Gar, hates penguins. And so actually, he just does. So I tweeted him a picture of penguins that we saw at the zoo, and I said, "What kind of Gar are these?"
What did he say?
Well, he had to pick. Someone
did he send you a middle finger emoji?
There's been a like birds versus fish thing on Twitter, and he either started it or he like stoked the flames of it because he's definitely team fish. But somebody got him a bird calendar as a joke, and so there's penguins diving in, so he put an alligator gar at the bottom, like they're jumping into the alligator gar's mouth. So that was his response. But other people were like, you know, commenting back about like the penguins and being like, "Oh, that's Sallmann's favorite type of gar," and stuff like that.
I think you should just start a rumor that he loves penguins. So that for Christmas, people start getting him penguin themed things. Yeah. Just make it common knowledge that he loves penguins, just like we know Jackson's a flat earther.
He's not a flat earther. It's fun.
That's what I've heard.
Hummingbirds are one of my faves. But here in New York, we only get one species out of about 330. Is that ruby-throated that you have in New York? I'm assuming that's probably what it would be.
There's probably some vagrants that show up, though.
And Nick says red-headed woodpeckers. Red-headed woodpeckers are really cool.
Jackson didn't deny that he's a flat earther. He just laughed. There it is.
So yeah, I think those are all really good answers. I guess, all right, since we played the, like, what's your favorite bird game, we'll play the what's your least favorite bird, because I'm very curious about those.
Wait, what did you just
What's
say?
your least favorite bird? Do you have one?
It's got to be house sparrows, right?
Hey, thanks, Gabe. We really appreciate the comments. Also, we'd love to do a collab with you. Gabe has his own channel as well. And he's out in, I think, I want to say Mississippi, somewhere in that area, but it'd be cool to do a collaboration at some point. Nick says starlings.
Fun fact, there was only one guy that was essentially entirely responsible for introducing starlings to the United States.
One of the famous composers, I think, had a pet starling.
I think you're right. I don't
Yeah.
remember who it was,
Starlings
though.
are actually very beautiful, though, with their iridescence and their
Well,
yellow
in their
bill.
native range, it's crazy how they murmurate, too, and those just undulating
You want to
flocks.
explain what murmuration is?
For anybody that doesn't know, murmurating is when these big flocks of birds get together and move like a school of fish does. So it's usually part of their migratory pathway. They just group together, and if you look up these flocks online, they're insane looking. They do really look like one massive creature.
It's kind of like when you
moving
see like
through
a
the
school
air.
of fish, and like, you know, a predator comes through, and they all kind of, you know, go through.
Cowbirds.
Did you have a least favorite?
It might actually be cowbirds. I think their call sounds disgusting. Every
Well,
time I hear one, it just sounds like they're about to vomit.
Cowbirds are native and they're protected by the Migratory Bird Act. And so this is what I heard, that they used to travel with herds of cattle, and so they couldn't take care of their own eggs because they were moving all the time.
So if you go out west, you can actually see that still with buffalo.
So do you think that's true, though? I've heard conflicts about that. But they said
that was probably part of it.
They said
they
couldn't
be
seeds. Around to take care of their own young, so they would lay their eggs in other birds' nests as they traveled through. That's what I heard.
Jackson says Mozart had the starling.
Is that what it is? Thanks, Jackson.
Jackson's also a smart guy.
For me, is there any bird that's just like really mean for no reason?
I mean, the house sparrow.
I mean, house sparrows can be pretty rough, but geez.
One time I made a post that was somewhat satirical about how the house sparrow should be our nation's bird, and I got a lot of hate for it. Like, people just did not understand that there was any satire, and they were just like, eradicate them.
People are very polarized on the
at some point species. I plan on making a series called How Did They Get Here, about the invasive species and how that population increased, because there's actually a lot of interesting things that led to some of these invasive birds being here. A lot of different ideologies that sort of cause this.
Jeez, I don't know. That's a tough one.
I feel like you're going to come up with one that everybody likes. You're going to be like, great horned owls. I can't stand them. You know what's mean is blue jays, to be honest.
They can be. I feel like there's got to be some bird that's
alligator gar.
We need to have a talk about our species. I'll think about it. So we got a lot of cowbirds. Starlings are not darlings. Is that a t-shirt, right?
Could be.
Ray says, we live in Fitchburg, put out seed on our windowsill each day. Usual customers are a pair of cardinals who bring their young son. What a nice young man. House finches, chickadees, house sparrows. That's awesome. You guys have a cardinal nest, and now you can watch their fledglings grow up. That's awesome.
Cardinals are notorious for, during nesting season, bashing against windows and trying to fight the reflections.
Pelicans are my least favorite. Have you guys seen the video of the pelican trying to eat the capybara? Because if you haven't, look it up. Actually, I have the thing on my phone I can show you. But it tries to fit it in his mouth, and it's trying different ways, and the capybara is just unfazed. It's what are you doing? It's really funny. What other comments do we have there? Canada goose. That's one that's kind of turned into a villain to some degree.
You know what's mean is swans, especially mute swans. Now there's a brown bird that we can't identify at all. It's somewhere between a house finch and cardinal in size. Not have an overly long tail. Any ideas? Be a female of a house finch or a purple finch.
I'm assuming it's in Fitchburg. And the brown bird, somewhere between house finch and cardinal. What about female cowbird?
Could be female cowbird. Could be female red-winged blackbird too. Depends how familiar you are with your female species.
Bigger than a finch. Cowbirds are bigger than finches.
Yeah, a little bit. If you could get a picture of it, you could definitely send it to us and we can try and figure it out.
So Dawson Gymnastics says cowbirds are definitely my fave.
I feel like that requires some explanation.
You think they meant least favorite?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll wait for that comment to come back through before passing judgment.
No judgment here. People want to like cowbirds. That's all right. They're a
Well,
native
they
species.
are technically native, protected by the Migratory Bird
Well,
Act.
it's kind of interesting because I feel like the reason people don't like them is just because of that like perception of like that's mean that they make other
Oh.
birds take care of their young. But it's
Yeah.
just like that's how nature is sometimes.
That's just how nature be. Are you still not finding this
I'll
pelican
find it.
capybara video? You acted like you had it at the ready.
I did. It's in my photos somewhere.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you post it on our page at some point?
I don't think so.
That appears to be an advertisement for Venom.
Hold on. That's a wood stork. That's not it.
It's a
We're having some
disaster.
technical difficulties. Give us a second. Okay.
Is
here
that
it is.
it?
Yeah. All right. It's just like feeling him. Like, can I eat
Is
this?
he actually trying to eat him?
Yeah, he's feeling him.
It looks like he is trying to eat him.
And the capybaras are just like unfazed. Like, what are you doing? But pelicans have been known to eat pigeons and stuff. They're
Well,
pretty
anything. Really.
Yeah,
like anything
that
they can fit in their mouth, they'll try to eat.
I feel like that's kind of the rule of thumb for animals is it's all about the gape limitation.
Well, it's funny because we always think about animals as just like these innocuous creatures. But if like a toad, for instance, was the size of a Volkswagen, like that would definitely take down a number of people.
Oh, they said they like them because they're unique.
Yeah. Well, you found that, what was it, a shiny cowbird?
Shiny cowbird, yeah.
Down in Louisiana. Did you like that better than the brown-headed cowbird?
I did. It was cool. It was interesting because actually with a flock of other blackbirds. So it was with bronze cowbirds, brown-headed cowbirds, red-winged blackbirds. It was in with like a bunch of different stuff. So it was cool to be able to pick it out.
Oh,
not my absolute favorite. Oh, we're walking it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's your turn to ask the viewers a question.
Well, actually, I want to know if you guys would appreciate if we did some of this live stuff with specific like topics in mind, almost like debate topics, but not a debate. Like we did some Let's Chats where we talked about different things like the windmills and how they are trying to prevent bird deaths with those, or different topics like hunting cormorants. If there's something that like that, if you would enjoy doing a live,
I think
you could comment in.
If I don't know if there'd be enough interest in this, but we could also, you guys could submit pictures that we could work on IDing together.
We do get a decent amount of pictures to ID.
I think that'd be kind of fun to go through some of those. We could see
some of them. I just legitimately don't know, just either because of the picture quality or because it's from a place.
It's tough, but it's fun to go through and try to figure it out too. So we could do that live too. We'd like to do more Q&A type stuff too, and then of course we'll be releasing. We have a ton of content. I have a ton of videos to make. I've been going out and filming a bunch of stuff because spring was really big for a bunch, so I have a lot of videos to work on.
Yeah,
so
was it like 100 backlog videos?
3,000. So we'll be working on content. We'll be releasing our videos like we have been. We'll also be working on some more ID tips and stuff.
How about this question for you? What is your goal for the channel?
My goal for the channel? I'd like to keep doing what we're doing. I'd like to grow. I'd like to reach as many people as possible, teach as many people about birds as we can and just share our enthusiasm. Kate says picture ID would be fun. I think so too. Maybe we'll have to have a thing where we'll have to have like some kind of submission, Well,
we have a lot that are kind of like that we've answered before that we could probably go back in our comments and find.
That's true. I feel like we'd also need people's permission too. Is it true that toucans have transparent skin under their feathers? I feel like portions of the skin is translucent. I feel like not all of it is though. Because I've seen videos where they pull like the neck feathers off and it looks really weird, or like they pull them up.
I was gonna say pull them off. Like what kind of stuff are you watching?
I'll see if I can get some more information about that.
I don't know a ton about toucans. A lot of the info that I've learned about birds have just been curiosity about the stuff that we've seen and looking up info. But we do find a lot of interesting stuff out from Cornell when we do our videos. So when we go through and do the summary of the birds, there's a lot of interesting facts that we learn there.
It does feel like that's true.
That they have transparent skin or translucent?
Transparent.
Skin? Do you have a picture of it?
Let me see. This is the one I was thinking of. This is the picture that I've seen before.
It just looks wrong.
It's very weird. Any bird, if you take the feathers off, looks very weird.
Have you ever seen an owl without feathers?
It's terrifying.
It is. Well,
If birds didn't
what's
have
crazy
feathers,
is it really displays how little bird there is.
Right.
Like there's so much feathers, and that's part of why they're so light, other than the bone structure.
Another vote for picture ID. Saw that on Daily Dose of the Internet. Oh, found a photo of the brown bird. Where can I send it? I'm trying to think what email we have on.
I don't know which email we have on there. I think it's yours.
There. I posted it in the chat. You can send it to that email.
Ooh, that ivory build is a good question.
Do you think the ivory build will ever thrive again, and if found and protected? So that's an interesting question. I actually met a guy in Louisiana who is currently looking for the ivory build woodpecker. And so
isn't he like convinced that it's out there? Like he's firmly in the camp.
I don't know how much that I want to say about it because we'll be doing some videos about it, but
could be a good teaser.
He's very convinced that it's still around, and so he's been working on looking for it. But his idea is that there's a population that is more secretive because they were fairly like loud birds, you know. Because I know some people look up an image of shoebill.
Those are terrifying.
They're awesome.
That's something that you could see in your nightmares.
With the ivory build, I know like Sibley's argument is like this isn't some little sparrow that we're wondering if it still exists. These were like wrecking crews, you know, that went through and took the bark off branches, and you would know if they were still around. Like you'd be able to see it. But my friend is convinced that there's, you know, a more secretive group. And in Louisiana, there's so much area that's not searched just because of the, you know, the landscape of the area and just the amount of people out there who are looking. Is
well,
like
that's kind of like the argument in the case for it still existing is just the sheer volume of area.
Right. Well, it's kind of like a Sasquatch. It's like, you know, people are like, well, you can't tell me it doesn't exist for sure because we haven't searched all the areas.
Its existence.
I really hope it's out there. So hopefully, you know, we'll have some kind of update on that. I'd love to.
Here's the problem though with species I presumed extinct is that every day that goes by, you have less of a chance of finding one.
Not necessarily.
Usually.
What if they're reproducing and then there's more?
Well, it would be kind of funny if all of a sudden they just unleashed the army of ivory-billed woodpeckers. They've just been slowly building their numbers.
You never know. The question about thriving though is I feel like they won't. Even if we did find them, well, if you did find one, what do you do then?
Well, it's not a case of even finding it, like where they're talking about de-extinction of species, where they're actually going to basically clone or engineer the species
we'll take
back
that off
existence.
The table for this though, because that's like
that could lead to a thriving stuff. They're talking about doing that with the Carolina parakeet, potentially the passenger pigeon, potentially the great auk.
I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like then that almost gives people a license to wipe out species. Oh, we can bring it back.
That's fine. We'll just de-extinction.
It gets complicated.
Well, what's interesting too is that species like the Carolina parakeet that were destroyed now have that gap being filled by other species like the monk parakeet. So the Carolina parakeet was a parrot species in the United States. I don't know if you can for sure
say it's filling that gap.
It's somewhat filling that gap, and that's kind of what nature tends to do. Is when one species disappears, another species will kind of fill in for what's missing. And then the same thing with the red crown Amazons in California.
Well, the monk parakeets like the power line structures. I don't know if the Carolina parakeets would be in that area. Well, it's a parrot.
Gonna have to de-extinction it to find out.
What else do we have? How many bird species do you think you know of? I don't know.
I mean,
at least like 500.
Yeah, at least 500, I think. What's cool though is when one shows up that you don't actually know about. Oh, that's a female cowbird.
Ray, can we show the photo on the live stream? It does look like it's a female cowbird. Have you heard of harpy eagle?
Yep. I think that they're the biggest eagle in the world.
Yeah.
Harpy eagles are known for taking large monkeys and in some cases even children.
Here's our cowbird photo female Ray sent in. So from this photo, it's kind of a front shot, but you can see the dollar kind of gray brownish coloration.
Yeah, what's goofy about that one is it almost looks like it has white or pale underneath the chin, but you can tell by those dark eyes, that dark, heavy, thick bill that it has.
For fun, I'm gonna throw it into Merlin Bird ID and see what it says. Because we tested some bird apps to see how accurate they were. Kind of hit or miss at this point, so I'm curious to see if it can get this.
I feel like you're doing a live demonstration.
I mean, kind of. I gotta download the photo.
So I was actually doing some research on bald eagles recently for a piece that I was working on,
For a
and
piece that I
it's
was
a
in
project I was working on. And I found out that before they knew a lot about bald eagles, people thought that they would actually take children. So people were afraid that they would take their livestock and their children, and so they hunted them.
the
And
bald eagles.
yeah,
Be more worried about the golden eagles.
well, they would hunt those too, but the bald eagles were more readily available at the time.
Do you think a bald eagle could / would ever go for a child? Is
I
there any
mean,
cases of that?
I don't
happening?
know of proven cases of bald eagles. I know there's been golden eagles in Russia that have attempted to pick up children. And then there are stories of thunderbirds taking children if
Mhm.
thunderbirds were real, which is, I would like to actually do a series on birds that may or may not have existed or what they could have been.
All right, I'm gonna throw this in Merlin now.
All right, let's see what we got.
You want to go through the rest of the chat?
Yeah, let's see. Do you have any tips on finding a yellow-billed cuckoo? I feel like I've been everywhere. Yellow-billed cuckoos are tricky birds because they are where they are. So they'll come and go a lot.
Well, what area are you in? Normally, I feel like I hear them first. So if you can be familiar with the calls and listen for them more than looking for them, because they can also be fairly secretive. So I would suggest getting used to the calls and listening for the calls first if you're in the area.
I honestly usually find them when I'm not looking for them. So I'll be looking for some other bird and you'll just see a quick flash of some brown bird with a long tail and a white underside. Then you have a 50-50 shot depending on where you live. How much hybridization is there in cowbirds? I don't know that I've ever seen a hybrid cowbird with anything else, but it's possible. I wouldn't think a whole lot though, just because their nesting habits are so different. Is it giving you a?
It's like the big reveal. All right, I put the
It's
cowbird
like a
photo
gender
in.
reveal party for a baby.
It's taking a long time. It's really thinking about it.
Yeah.
No, its first thing on here is Clark's Nutcracker.
That's
But
funny.
second is actually brown-headed cowbird. But weirdly enough, third is barred owl. So
Well,
it was
that's
just
not
kind of
ideal.
all over the place.
Yeah. I think it thought Clark's Nutcracker because of how the brown on the stomach looks different than the sides.
Well, that's the thing is like if the photo is a little like has a characteristic that's looks a certain way, it'll think that it is something else. That's
Yeah.
like the issue with some of these apps, but it did have it in the list of the 3 that it suggested. So it wasn't the best photo. Well, it's like you're not always going to get the best photo. That's the
Yeah.
thing. But
There's
I
some
mean, the
really
apps are
deceptive
interesting.
photos out
Yeah,
there. Like I
definitely.
remember one picture someone got that posted on Facebook that the wing of this bird that I think was a northern harrier was kind of making it look like it had a forked tail. And so based on that photo, people were like, that looks like it's some kind of kite, but it turned out to just be a harrier and the photo was just goofy. What's the rarest bird you have seen? You have a good answer for that.
What is it?
What's the rarest bird you've seen?
The rarest bird I've ever seen is the critically endangered Grenada dove on the island of Grenada, and it really only lives in specific habitat. And Grenada is a really small Caribbean island, and that habitat is like slowly shrinking. And so I made a video about looking for it when I was there, and I was really thankful to actually get some good views of it because they're these big doves. But when you'll hear them calling, but when they fly, they'll fly to the ground and then run. And so it's kind of like a Henslow sparrow. We'll see them, then they'll just be here, and then we'll just kind of go. I think that's the rarest bird that I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think the rarest bird I've seen in the wild is a white-winged tern. That was I think it's a category 5 ABA rarity that showed up in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. And that's the rarest, like for the United States. The rarest bird I've ever seen in captivity is the Guam kingfisher, which was in the Milwaukee County Zoo.
So I was looking up the eagle thing, and it says Christine O'Connell captured a wedge-tailed eagle swooping down on a child during an eagle encounter at Alice Springs Desert Park in Australia. So I don't think it actually took a kid, but it definitely like
I've seen a video of one trying, and it got it off the ground a little
That's really
bit, but
interesting. I know they can that
well,
birds of prey can take
harpies will take
small dogs and
monkeys.
stuff. Yeah,
So that's
crazy
one of
stuff like
their
that.
prey items is they'll swoop in and take monkeys right off the tree.
Um, Harpy eagle. Ray, thanks so much for sending the photo too. That was fun to look at.
It would be fun to do that, like just a ID
Yeah, for
complete
sure.
live video.
I'm gonna look up cowbird hybridization real quick because I'm curious too. I'm curious if in places like Louisiana where you get bronze cowbirds and stuff like that, if they hybridize.
Sent another photo, he said.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out in a sec. Says brown-headed cowbirds are not monogamous.
Well, that doesn't tell us much.
I feel like there's not a ton of hybridization.
Yeah, we have wood ducks. Someone said, have you heard of the wood duck? We have those in Wisconsin. They're actually really beautiful birds. They look kind of like mandarin ducks to me.
Mm-hmm. Dawson says in the southeast Wisconsin.
I think it's just in the southeast.
Oh, just of the U.S.
I think so.
I think at least in Louisiana we don't have like black-billed cuckoos right now. So I mean, sometimes if you see a cuckoo, you have to differentiate between like black-billed or yellow-billed, but that might take a species off the table. Bohemian waxwing. Do you have any tips for differentiating calls? Going off eBird, a lot of them sound very similar.
Yeah, it depends on which calls you're talking about, but for a lot of like the warblers, especially, there's mnemonic devices that people use. So I remember Bill had this one CD that whenever we were driving together, he'd be playing it, and it would just be the person on the CD would say the call, and then you'd hear the call, and then they would do the mnemonic device for the call.
What are some of your favorite mnemonic devices?
There's one for warbling vireo that's like, when I see you, I will squeeze you, and I'll squeeze you till you squirt. That one's kind of funny.
Is it the towhee that's like drink your tea?
I think so. Yeah.
And then indigo bunting is
black-throated blue warblers. I am lazy.
Indigo bunting is fire where here.
Yeah.
So those are
I feel
cool.
like they could sound like anything though.
Yeah.
Like you could definitely make anything out of it.
I think most of the calls I learned were just from hearing them over and over again. Like song sparrows are all over during the summer, so I just hear it over and over again and have to.
Well,
what
what helped me the most was just hearing a bird chasing it down through like the thicket, and then looking at what it was, and then you're like, oh, I'll remember that one.
Yeah, there's also, speaking of apps, there's some new apps. I think BirdNet ID is one. Merlin might have launched it already, where you can have it set to record calls, and then you can zero in on the call and it'll try to tell you what it is. We'd like to test those.
Our friend Rob used one of those when we were in Madison earlier this year, and it seemed to work pretty well. We got a Nashville warbler that we just heard it. It was up in the top of the tree. We couldn't really see it. So that was cool.
But I think, something like having a tape in your car or learning those mnemonic devices, or if you're interested in looking for specific birds, just looking up and listening to the call over and over.
That's what I usually do. What's weird though is I do tend to forget some of them the next season. So during spring, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember what that is. And then the next spring, I'll be like, what was that? And then I'll have to go and review it again to figure out what it was.
Oh, Ray sent a photo of the cardinals.
Oh, that's cool. That's an awesome picture.
Both of them. That's so cool.
That's a good photo.
You can really see the red on the female's crown there too.
Are there any birds that you guys really want to see that are kind of on your list of what you're going to try to find?
What's the rarity of seeing the Dendrocoppus bird?
I don't even know what that is.
I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, she was beautiful.
What's the one bird that you always talk about seeing?
What is that? That can literally be anything.
There's one specific bird that you're always like going on about. That's like somewhere in the south, I remember.
The kakapo?
No, not the kakapo. It's not an Annie, but it's kind of something like that.
Oh, Dendrocoppus is a genus of woodpeckers from Asia and Europe and Northern Africa. Oh, that's like the great spotted woodpecker and stuff. I think the chances are fairly slim, at least in the U.S., from what I've heard, at least.
from the big year
Yeah,
because you have a greater chance of seeing a unicorn.
that's what Owen Wilson told me. So what do you? Oh, it's also called a Syrian woodpecker. Um, what bird are you trying to think
I
of?
don't remember. It was some bird with a weird name that lives down in like Texas,
Oh, the
Mexico.
chachalaca.
That wasn't it, but that's also something you go on and on about.
What? Which one?
Which chachalacha?
No, it's which bird are you talking about?
I don't know. Next time you bring it up, I'll be like, "That's the one."
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's annoying because he like has all this free time down in
I
Louisiana.
don't have all this free time
because
You're
it's all
convinced
birding.
that I have free
Well, that's
time.
because I'm like, "What are you doing this week?" You're like, "Taking a trip to Texas to see a chachalacha."
That was like earlier in the year, though. I have like no free time anymore.
Well, he'll be like, "Yeah, I saw this, that, and this, and this, and elf owl, and
It's true.
yeah,
That's true.
missed on the Annie, which I was mad about, but saw like 15 lifers."
I have a question for you actually.
For
What
me or
is
for
like
them?
for you?
Okay.
What is probably the like weirdest route you've taken to end up seeing a bird?
What do you mean?
As far as just like it didn't go the way you thought it would go.
That's a good like. Which you're thinking the car accident scene in like the big year where
No,
he
I'm
randomly
just
comes upon it.
curious.
That's a good question. I feel like I would have to take some time to think about it. I remember hearing a story once. Oh, it could have been. This was just like a sequence of events where Bill and I did like a ton of driving.
Mhm.
So when we were doing what kind of ended up turning into a big year, we were going all over the place whenever anything was spotted. And there was one time we went up to Mead Wildlife Area to see a redneck phalarope and a Hudsonian godwit.
Those are good birds.
Yeah, and then we drove all the way down. And then I think that night we drove all the way back up to Manitowoc to see the white wing tern. Because that's what will happen sometimes is you go someplace, you leave that place, then you get back home, and all of a sudden something's spotted in that place.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing
That's
with like the
frustrating.
cinnamon teal where it was reported in Lake Mills. And the next day we went to Lake Mills to see the cinnamon teal. It's gone. Cinnamon teal then is reported at, where was it? Madison. So we go see it in Madison. It's gone. Then it's reported in, where do we find it? Collins Marsh. And then we finally go see it. It's just that kind of roundabout stuff like that.
My favorite thing is when you're out and you'll see something's reported in the area you're in or really nearby.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with the solitaire. I was looking for something else. I'm like, oh, a Townsend solitaire's here. And you're like, what?
No.
I got to go see that. Have you ever been to Big Bend? Excellent Swiss there.
Like in Wisconsin, Big Bend?
Big Bend, Wisconsin, or Big Bend? There's like a Big Bend National Park in Oklahoma, I know.
Or Big Ben, the clock tower.
There's a D.
D was accidental.
What's the there's a big clock in Milwaukee too. What's that one?
I have no idea.
Oh, but
Milwaukee Courthouse.
Oh, Texas. I have not been there. Have you been there?
Neither have I. No.
There's so much cool stuff to see in Texas. Like I've only birded in Texas a little bit, and I feel like
so
I barely even
huge.
touched on the amount of things that you can see there.
That's what's crazy about most states is that the amount of different habitats there is quite stunning.
Yeah, definitely. I bet it is where that.
Like I saw someone mention spring green earlier, and it's like Wisconsin has a desert. It has boreal forest. It has lakefront. It has coniferous and deciduous forest.
We had a comment saying the Bohemian waxwing is probably one of my favorites. Bohemians are really
That's a
cool.
good one, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny when birds are differentiated by just like one small or like a couple small features. It's like it's curious to know how that kind of like happened.
Well, we've been going for like an hour and a half. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think if you guys have any final questions, let us know, and you can always ask us in one of our videos, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more of these live streams for you guys. So let us know if you like it, if you've enjoyed it, and what kind of live stream stuff you'd be more interested in, or just like ideas for videos and stuff like that. We're always open to suggestions and stuff. So I think we'll go for we've been on for an hour and 33 minutes, so we'll probably go for like 2 more minutes. Ended at an hour 35.
Yeah.
So we'll take some final questions. If not, I'll just ask you, how soft is the shirt?
The shirt's actually really
I
soft.
feel like you wear that all the time, to
It's
be
a
honest.
really nice shirt, and I like wearing it when I'm out birding too,
Mhm.
because I actually get recognized a decent amount, which is kind of funny because I'm like a Z-list celebrity basically. Like
I don't even know
people
what
when I'm
that
out
means.
birding, I'll just be like, "You're that guy that
Well, yeah, because you wear
birds."
the T-shirt.
Yeah, they're like, "You're the guy from Badgerland birding." I'm like, "How did you know?"
In Louisiana, I feel like people just refer to me as the guy that makes the videos. Like, "Oh, you're the guy that makes the videos."
Yeah. Do you
Uh,
think you're despised in Louisiana? Or...
no, why would it
I'm
be
kidding.
despised?
You're like, "You're the guy that makes the videos." I hate those videos.
Jeez. um, we got a good vibes,
That's good.
and we got Chloe B says enjoyed the Q&A. Thanks, we appreciate it. Yeah, well, I think that's all the time that we have for today. But thanks so much for tuning in. I think we'll be able to leave this up. So if you want to, rewatch anything, or for those
If
of you
you're
that are watching
really
it today,
desperate for content,
I
I
want to
want
watch
to
it
rewatch it
again.
again.
So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you around. So have a good night.